The ban on slavery only went till 1750, and because of the need, because of the rice growing there, they succumbed to that, and blacks came in starting in 1750. So you had slavery in all 5 of those plantation colonies, and Georgia succumbed in 1750 after pressure over the rice plantations. Now, think about Georgia. What you have is you have a wide scattering of plantations and farms, not only in Georgia, but in all of these colonies, right? If you have a plantation colony, are they all people all condensed in one area? No. So it made it hard for cities to grow in these 5 colonies. You hear some main cities in these 5 colonies, but do you hear about a whole bunch of main cities? No. So it became very hard in these plantation colonies to really grow a lot of cities. What else might be hard to establish, believe it or not, in plantation colonies? Okay, if you have everybody all spread out, what aren't you going to be able to have very easily? Churches, yeah! Wouldn't be able to establish churches very well if everybody's all spread out. So these 5 plantation colonies had trouble establishing cities, lots of different cities. They also had trouble establishing churches. And what kind of goes along with churches? It's an organization that you're really excited about being in today. Schools. Yeah, so schools were very hard to organize or establish as well because everybody was so spread out. A lot of country schools. So the wide scattering of plantations and farms in these 5 plantation colonies made things difficult on cities, churches, and schools. Now, if you think about all the plantation colonies, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, although most permitted religious tolerance, what did most people in those colonies, what religion did they follow? Ironically. The Church of England.
That's weird.
Although most of those, I'm not talking about all 13, I'm only talking about the plantation colonies. Even though all the plantation colonies permitted some religious tolerance, the tax-supported Church of England was the dominant faith. Most people still were members of that church. And that's ironic, because that's why a lot of them came over, right? Kind of shows you how things go. Now, what was a negative thing about plantations? And especially in Virginia, Maryland, probably. Soil butchery. There you go. Soil butchery. Excessive tobacco growing drove settlers out. But it actually, this is kind of an interesting thing. Because of soil butchery, these settlers that couldn't grow tobacco on these worn out fields, what did they do? Did they just go back to England?
No.
Where'd they go?
Other places.
Westward. More towards the Mississippi River. So really, the plantation colonies had more expansionism than any other colonies. People in those 5 colonies, more people moved west because, one, soil butchery. Okay? The land was so beat up from the tobacco industry that they had to move west to find fresh land, right? Another thing that resulted in some expansionism west on these plantation colonies were, if you look at our topography, we have some really nice what in the western part here? Rivers. And what do we have along rivers? Fertile land, usually, right? So because of the long and lazy rivers that penetrated the land between the colonies and the Mississippi River, you saw more people in those plantation colonies going that way as well. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. All right. Well, that is it. We are going to be done with the lecture. We will have a review Monday and a test Tuesday. Then we're going to move on to the French and Indian War. Has anybody heard of that?
Yeah.